Have you ever glanced at the clock and felt that strange jolt in your chest when it reads 11:11 again and again and again? Not once, not twice, but for years. Or maybe it's the déjà vu that hits so hard it feels like your body remembers something your mind can't access. Or those coincidences that stack up so perfectly they almost feel scripted, like reality is glitching for just a second. If this has been happening to you, let me say this clearly before your rational mind tries to shut it down. You're not crazy. You're not imagining it. And no, it's not just pattern seeking or confirmation bias the way people love to dismiss it. There is a scientific reason this happens, and it lives much deeper than surface-level psychology. Most people feel this and immediately doubt themselves. They shrug it off, scroll past it, or laugh it away, because the experience doesn't fit into what they were taught reality is supposed to be. But something inside you didn't let it go. Something inside you knew this wasn't random. That subtle inner pull, that quiet feeling that says this means something, is not a flaw in your mind. It's a signal. And it's one of the earliest markers of a spiritual awakening connected directly to quantum consciousness and the hidden reality beneath everyday life. What no one tells you is that moments like 11:11, synchronicities, and intense déjà vu tend to appear when your perception starts brushing against the deeper structure of reality itself. Not the mystical version people argue about online, but the version modern physics has been reluctantly uncovering for decades. When a physicist finally explained this to me, it shattered the way I understood time, awareness, and my own thoughts. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. But here's where it gets unsettling. The reason you're seeing these signs now has everything to do with what your consciousness is doing behind the scenes, and why reality seems to be responding in ways you were never taught were possible. Before we go any further, I want you to do something simple, but intentional. If you've experienced a moment you still can't explain, a synchronicity that stopped you cold, a repeating number that followed you for years, a coincidence that felt impossible, share it in the comments below. One moment, one sentence. I'm reading everyone because patterns don't emerge in isolation. They emerge in groups. And if this resonates, press like, not as a favor to me, but as a signal. That single action tells the algorithm to surface this conversation to others who are quietly searching for the same answers, wondering if they're alone in this experience. If something just clicked inside you, that subtle recognition, then subscribe. Not because you're curious, but because you belong in this space. This isn't entertainment. It's a shared inquiry into a hidden layer of reality most people never question. Now here's where things get precise. Because the reason this keeps happening to you isn't mystical coincidence. It's rooted in a specific, uncomfortable discovery from quantum physics that most people never hear about. The physicist who finally forced science to confront this was John Archibald Wheeler. In 1978, at Princeton University, he formalized what became known as the delayed choice experiment, and its implications still make physicists uncomfortable today. The setup was deceptively simple. A single particle, like a photon, is sent through an apparatus similar to the famous double-slit experiment. Depending on how it's measured, that photon behaves either like a wave, spreading out through space, or like a particle with a definite position. That part was already strange, but Wheeler introduced a twist that changed everything. The choice of how to measure the photon was made after the photon had already passed the critical point where it would have had to decide how to behave, and the results were consistent, every time. When the measurement was changed at the last moment, the particle behaved as if it had always known what the observer would choose in the future, not predicted, not estimated, responded, as if the present decision reached backward through time and shaped the past behavior of the particle. Mainstream physics describes this carefully, using neutral language, but the observer effect here is undeniable. Observation doesn't just reveal reality, it participates in its creation within the quantum field. Now let this land personally, not intellectually, because this means that reality, at its most fundamental level, is not a fixed script playing out independently of you. It means the universe does not fully decide what exists until consciousness enters the equation. And if that's true at the smallest measurable scales, then the boundary between observation and reality creation isn't philosophical, it's structural. So when you experience synchronicities, repeating numbers, that eerie sense of alignment, it isn't your mind malfunctioning. It's your awareness brushing up against a system that responds to observation. And that moment when you feel like reality is nudging you, that's not randomness. That's what consciousness expansion feels like from the inside. Subtle, unsettling, and deeply personal. You're not forcing meaning onto chaos. You're noticing feedback from a hidden layer of reality that most people never question. But here's where it gets even stranger. What makes this even more unsettling is that physics isn't the only field that ran into this wall. In 1988, cognitive scientist Bernard Bares introduced what's called the global workspace theory, originally developed while he was working in the United States to explain something simple but disturbing: why most of what your brain processes never reaches conscious awareness. His discovery was this: your subconscious mind is constantly taking in massive amounts of information, patterns, signals, and probabilities, but only a tiny fraction ever gets broadcast into conscious perception. Consciousness isn't passive, it's selective, and when something breaks through that filter, it's because it carries unusual informational weight. And this is where it connects directly to what you feel in your body, that sudden rush in your chest, the moment your heart speeds up for no obvious reason, that strange pressure between your eyebrows, the way time seems to stretch or compress when a synchronicity hits. Those sensations aren't imagined. They're the physiological signature of your nervous system registering something that doesn't fit your current model of reality. Your perception is updating in real time. Your brain is literally reallocating energy and attention because your subconscious has detected a meaningful pattern before your rational mind can explain it. That's why you feel the vibration first, before the thought. That's why it feels physical. Frequency isn't spiritual poetry here. It's measurable neural activity, electrical signaling, coherence across systems. When your subconscious mind flags something as significant, your body reacts instantly. Goosebumps, heat, a tightening in the stomach. And if you're feeling any of that right now as you listen, that's not coincidence. It's recognition. This also explains why these moments tend to happen during periods of internal change. When your perception loosens, when old beliefs weaken, when your sense of identity starts to shift, the filter relaxes. More information gets through. Reality feels more alive, more responsive, sometimes overwhelming. You're not losing control. You're perceiving more of the signal that was always there. That's what people mean, without realizing it, when they talk about energy or vibration. It's not magic. It's alignment between perception and the deeper informational structure of reality. Now let me tell you something nobody talks about. For years, I ignored this part of my life, not because it wasn't happening, but because it felt safer to pretend it wasn't. I saw the numbers. I felt the synchronicities. I had moments where reality felt thin, almost transparent. But every time I tried to talk about it, the room changed. People laughed. Some got uncomfortable. Others gave me that look, the one that says, "You're reading too much into things." So I stopped bringing it up. I learned how to nod, how to stay quiet, how to compress something profound into silence. And that silence came with a cost. It was lonely, not dramatic loneliness, the quiet kind, the kind where you're surrounded by people but feel fundamentally unseen. I doubted myself constantly. I wondered if I was projecting meaning where none existed, if I was just wired differently in a way that would never make sense to anyone else. I remember moments where I told myself, just be normal, let it go. But the experiences didn't stop. They intensified. And the more I tried to ignore them, the heavier it felt, like carrying something unfinished that demanded attention. The rupture came when I realized I couldn't unknow what I was noticing anymore. There was a moment, small, personal, where another impossible coincidence landed with perfect timing, and instead of brushing it off, I felt this quiet clarity. Not excitement, not fear, just recognition. I knew in that moment that dismissing this part of myself was costing me more than facing it ever could. That pretending not to see was more exhausting than admitting I didn't fully understand what I was seeing. If any of this feels familiar, if you've kept these experiences to yourself because it felt easier, you're not alone. This isn't weakness. It's sensitivity to reality. And if something in you resonated with this, you're exactly where you need to be right now. Not ahead, not behind. Right here. That's when everything changed. Because I realized something that shifts everything. That's the moment the pattern finally reveals itself. What you thought was a flaw, the sensitivity, the noticing, the feeling that reality doesn't behave the way you were taught, was never a defect. You're not breaking, you're waking up. The same science that unsettles physicists points in the same direction your experience has been pulling you all along. When observation alters outcomes, when the quantum observer participates in reality creation, it forces a reframe that most people instinctively resist. Consciousness doesn't sit inside reality like a passenger. Consciousness helps shape what reality becomes. Look back at the path we just walked. A particle responding to a future observation. A mind filtering vast oceans of information before allowing a signal through. A body reacting before thought even forms. None of this is random. It's a layered system, and you're sensing the seams. When people say, "Something feels off lately," what they're really describing is a reality shift happening faster than their old models can keep up with. If things feel unfamiliar right now, if the world feels slightly misaligned, that's not failure. That's frequency changing. And here's what matters most. You are not alone in this. Not metaphorically, literally. Thousands of people are reporting the same markers at the same time. Heightened perception, time distortion, synchronicities clustering, emotional intensity without clear cause. This isn't mass confusion, it's convergence. When consciousness expands collectively, individuals feel it first as strangeness, then as recognition. If your heart feels like it's racing right now, that's not anxiety. That's your nervous system recognizing coherence, the sensation of something clicking into place after years of friction. The unsettling part is also the empowering part. The awareness you've always had wasn't given to you. It was always there. It was just buried under noise, conditioning, and outdated explanations. The power people search for outside themselves, in systems, beliefs, authority, has always been internal, not as control, but as participation, as presence, as perception that actually matters. And if consciousness creates, if the quantum observer plays a role in collapsing reality into form, then ideas like death, time, and separation don't mean what you were taught they mean. They can't, which raises a question most people aren't ready to face yet. Before your rational mind pulls you back into familiar explanations, do this now. Pause. Notice your breath. Notice the moment you're in. Because awareness, once recognized, doesn't wait forever to be acknowledged. Comment, "I am the observer," or "Consciousness creates below." This isn't just engagement, it's a conscious signal, a deliberate act of intention that feeds the collective field forming around this channel. When you write it, you're not performing for an algorithm. You're collapsing meaning into form and attracting minds already resonating at the same frequency. Subscribe now before your logical mind talks you out of it. This space isn't designed for everyone. It's for those who sense, quietly, deeply, that reality is far more layered than what we were taught. If you stayed until this moment, that wasn't accidental. You already belong here. Welcome home. And if you want to go deeper, the next video is called "What Happens When Consciousness Observes Death? The Quantum Paradox No One Explains." What I uncovered about time, identity, and awareness is more disturbing than anything we covered today. It's not for everyone. I'll see you there. Your consciousness brought you here. What happens now is your choice.